Maybe.
Says
All right.
live on my screen.
We're live. Welcome to session number 2 of the Overland Roundtable. And let's go ahead and introduce everybody here. I'm going to run down and just give everybody a chance to introduce themselves again. First, in the farthest time zone for me is Alex Garner in Australia. How are you doing tonight? This morning?
Yeah, this morning for me. Very good, thanks. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great, doing great. It's been a very productive weekend, but we'll talk about that probably later. We also have Brandon Libby. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing excellent. And Jason Spect from Mountain State Overland.
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Excellent, excellent. And Taylor Adney from the Overland Adventures, trying not to get blown over by the tornadoes this weekend.
That's right. It came close.
That's good. Didn't get you. And so now we've got our guest panelists. Ben, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Ben Beierwaltes, running Rocky Mountain Overland out here in Colorado. And just a good group of guys getting out and bringing the Overland philosophy to Colorado. So it's been a good time.
Excellent. And our last guest panelist is Matt Frick. How you doing tonight?
Great. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you give yourself a little bit of an introduction? I know if somebody's listened to the 4x4 podcast, they may have heard your voice before, but we want to make sure everybody's familiar with who you are and what you bring to this discussion.
Camp4low.com. We do off-road tours in Baja. And it's the tours where you bring your own rig and we guide the way. That's basically
Very cool. Very cool. I would love to get back down there to Baja and explore with you. But that'll have to wait for a little while.
When the Alaska thing's done.
Yeah, once I'll go from one extreme to the other.
You gonna ever get to Fort Irwin?
I would love to. It's been on my wish list, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't really get to make a bunch of those decisions anymore.
Right.
Well, tonight's discussion is all going to be about the selection of a vehicle for overlanding and all the different factors that go into that and what you need to think about when you're making that decision. And I think with this group, we've got a pretty solid collection. I've got a Jeep, and I'm right now building out the GMC Yukon XL for the trip to Alaska. You know, Alex has got the Nissan. Brandon's got the Jeep and Nissan. Jason, you're an all Toyota group, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got a 4Runner and a Tacoma and Blue Ridge Overland gears running in a Land Cruiser. Yep.
Excellent. And Taylor, you got the 4Runner, but you're moving into something else, I think.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that a little more later.
Awesome. And Matt, what is it you drive off-road?
83 Bronco.
There we go. And Ben, what is it? Ben, what is it you've got now?
Yeah, so I'm running a Rubicon, a JK, but within our group we've got everything, all the Toyotas from FJ40s to modern 4Runners, the Jeeps, Nissans, pretty much Pinzgauers. So we've got a cross-section about everything that we're running with.
Very cool. Well, Brandon, I'll let you start off. I saw earlier you had shared an article from Overland Journal about the pickups versus SUV discussion, the wagon or the pickup truck. So you want to lead into that a little bit, and that'll kind of start us off on the discussion?
Yeah, sure. Well, they were trying to just kind of juxtapose the two platforms and kind of cover things like security and cargo capacity and things of that nature. Obviously, those are pretty important things to consider. It really depends on where you're going to go and what you want to bring with you. In our country, there's been a trend where the wagons have kind of the gross vehicle weights dwindled down more and more and more to where you can't really bring very much with you weight-wise. But pickup trucks have been on the rise, and they've started to bring out a lot more the heavier duty trucks. And as we start to go through our gear and figure out what we want to drag along with us, whether it be some adventure bikes or just camping gear or whatever it is. I feel like the pickup truck's a lot more versatile. The wagon's more comfortable. It's probably a better daily driver, but all around, I think the pickup really is the kind of the Swiss Army knife of the off-road world, especially in overlanding.
Yeah, and I think the thing that jumped out to me the most was the fact that the pickup truck used to be all utilitarian, but now anymore, you've got all the same creature comforts as you would in a SUV or a wagon.
Oh yeah, leather, GPS, heated everything, power everything. But they've definitely gotten a lot more luxurious over the years. I think it started with the the 3500s, because a lot more people were driving those long distance and towing toy haulers and things of that nature. And a lot of them were older people. And I think to get them in the trucks, they had to kind of, spice them up a little bit. And then of course, they carry the 1500s, the quarter tons, or for, I guess, people who don't really have a lot of stuff to drag around. They just kind of need a pickup for their day-to-day lives. But even those, I mean, the cargo capacity is not super. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is most folks don't factor in their own weight, meaning the passengers themselves. I mean, you get two good-sized guys, that's 400 pounds.
400 pounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you've got an 860-pound cargo capacity, you've already cut it in half with two passengers, and you want to put a fridge, drawers, all your cooking stuff, and the bull bars and the winches, and by the time you do all that, you're way overweight.
And you haven't even loaded any of your gear in at that point.
Yeah, and it seems like pickups are making a lot more sense now, and like you said, they're a lot more comfortable than they used to be, and you can get anything from extended cab to a 4-door. I know I guess Toyota's not doing the extended cab anymore, or the standard cab, excuse me.
Yeah, they've completely killed off the standard cab.
Yeah, so I mean, in the larger trucks you can get away with it, but then you start to run into issues where you can carry more weight, but can you get on the trails you want to go onto? Do you have the departure angles you need with that longer bed? And as they get more civilized, they start to get bulkier, more plastic bumpers, which make them a little less off-road capable. But of course, there's solutions to that stuff as well, through at the aftermarket.
Absolutely. So, Alex, you've got the Nissan Patrol. Have you gone through any other vehicles before you came to that decision?
Only another Nissan Patrol, a much earlier version of it. And I've always been a wagon sort of guy. The first Patrol I had for a very different purpose. I was pretty young then, and it was just a bit of a weekend toy. I'd take it out and flog it around on the tracks on the weekends. But as I sort of shift more from sort of weekend wheeling stuff, I wanted something a bit more comfy for the overland sort of thing. And that one was getting old, pretty old. It drove like a pig. It had a big lift in it, and I moved on to the GU wagon. But I still went with live axles and all of that sort of thing, because I was transitioning from like a weekend wheeling toy to something more overland, but I still wanted to have all that fun. And a lot of Aussies build their vehicles the same sort of way. They want to be able to do everything, which is why I went for the live axles in the Patrol. But as I've come to be more of an overlander, I don't think that live axles is so important to me. So yeah, mostly for the live axles I went for it. And I've always just been a wagon body type sort of person. I like being able to have all my gear secure in there. And I mean, when you look at utes, not only are they, oh, by the way, ute is what Australians call a pickup, in case anyone listening doesn't know.
Yeah, utes, well, I always thought the ute was more of the quad cab pickup. Is that just, or is it just a generic pickup truck?
Just anything basically that has a pickup or a tray or well body is a ute. So whether it's a single or dual cab or cab chassis, anything like that. So yeah, security is something, and like I couldn't just chunk all my gear in the back of a ute. I'd have to have a canopy to sort of keep it all dry. And even then, like I've put canopies on utes before, and you see them come back from 2 weeks in the desert and they've still got full of dust and water. They're not designed to be sealed up, and so they're never going to keep all that dust and that water out.
And that's really been my concern with the pickups, just keeping the bed clean enough to store gear. We were in Death Valley 4 weeks ago, we had a Tacoma with us, and he just, everything was caked with dust every day.
Yeah, it would drive me nuts. I'm a bit of a clean freak sort of person, I guess. So, I mean, they're great in that if you go for a wagon, you've got all these interior panels and things sort of protruding, kind of invades your storage space a bit. So, having like a flatbed or something you could build your own setup around, it gives you a bit more of a home for everything, I suppose.
Yeah, that is something I've noticed is very popular in Australia, is the flatbed setup for the back, because essentially everything that hangs down below the bottom of the interior of the bed is just body panel that's waiting to get hung up and ripped to shreds. I think there's been some companies that tried to put that space to good use, and they put like a little a toolbox or something down there, but same thing happens. You've got dust and stuff encroaching in the area, and they get dinged up and torn up so bad you can't even use it. So.
And I do like, seeing what the Aussies are doing with some of the trucks. So you're saying the building out that back end and stuff. It looks very interesting. It's something we don't see in the U.S. hardly ever.
Yeah, if I was going to go a ute, that's the way I'd have to go, I think, with like a cab chassis. So you've basically got your cab and then nothing behind it, and build your own custom setup. Then you can build all the seals in and build it to your own weight, build it to your own specification. It's going to cost you a fair whack of money, but you'd get it right.
Yeah.
For sure. We saw that. We talked about that on the 4x4 podcast. Is the Chevy Colorado is coming with the truck bed delete option, but by removing the bed from the factory, you actually only save $300. You could buy it with the bed on it and sell it off as scrap metal for more than that. So I think it's going to be a while till that trend catches on here in the United States.
Yeah.
If you want something bigger, the full-size trucks, especially if you want to get the what do they call them? Not commercial grade, but like the contractor trucks. You can usually get those without a bed as well. Actually, you can get the some of the bigger ones like that too. What are they, like the 550s and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because those typically have, they'll have attachments for tow trucks or,
or service
any
beds
number
or
of
whatever.
other things.
Yeah, or a big steel flatbed.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
a lot of it really depends on where you are.
Yep.
Coming from size. Like in Colorado, no one's going to go out in a full size. You're going to see a Tacoma, the Colorado, something like that, but a 1500 is just too big for the trails out here.
It's the same thing here. Whenever I go over into Arkansas, it's all the trails over there are far too tight for anything full size. The fifth gens that run in our group, they always have a real tough time getting down the trails, and they've actually beat up their quarter panels pretty good a couple times from trees being too tight.
Yeah, for sure. The East Coast will just tear some large vehicles apart. There in Vermont, for the Overland Trophy, there was a Ford Expedition one year, and every single body panel, to include the roof, I think, had some new scratches and dents. So, but something for like Baja, Matt, that's probably be all right using a full size truck.
Be all right. The reason, another reason that the Bronco is the perfect off-road vehicle. Short wheelbase, big power, good ride. No straight axles here, man. I like the ride of the Bronco.
Yeah, there's a guy on Instagram goes by the handle or username of 1 Ton Sub, and there is a small group or small calling for these like square body, 80 model Broncos and Suburbans and Chevy pickups and things like that, Chevy Blazers, and pretty interesting. I can shoot that out to you guys. He was actually there at Expo. But when you were talking about a wagon, you compare the payload capacity and then the storage in the cargo area of a Suburban, to a Land Cruiser. I mean, you could put a full-size bed in the back of that thing.
Yeah.
Well, really, the problem is with a lot of wagons is they're losing their utilitarian nature,
Yeah.
becoming cars and unibodies and things like that. I mean, I'm dealing with it right now, even on the Jeep, which is really made as a toy. It's a trail toy. Get out there, have fun. I just weighed on 1,000 pounds over this vehicle weight right now. And with a rooftop tent on it, I'll take a turn and the whole thing just sways. So now I'm having to put extra heavy-duty springs on it, extra heavy-duty sway bars, just trying to compensate for it because, I'm really pushing it beyond its limits of what it was designed for. And a lot of that weight is just the bumper, the winch, 35-inch tires, those types of things. It's not a whole lot of camping gear.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I feel a lot better about making this extended trip to Alaska in the Yukon, because it's already built to handle a lot more weight. This weekend I just put the rooftop tent on. I've driven it around for about 2 hours down highways and some back roads just to see how that affects a vehicle like that. And really, I couldn't notice it at all. Now, of course, I wasn't trying to drive like a sports car pushing it through corners, but it's a full-size vehicle. You're not going to be getting much performance out of it like that anyways.
That rooftop tent on the top of your rig, that's pretty high, isn't it?
It is. And that is not a lifted vehicle. So, I don't know how some guys with the lifted truck get up there and actually strap everything back down and everything.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I'm starting to like the idea of the overlanding thing because I'm liking the idea of more comfort as I get a little older. It used to be we just go somewhere in Baja and we just sleep in the dirt. But I'm getting a little looking for a little more comfort. So
I warn you, it's hard to go back because I used to do bushcraft, sleep under a tarp, and now I'm like, man, if I can't have a nice foam pad on top of the vehicle, I don't want to go.
Yeah, I'm starting to like my bottom side to be comfortable.
Well, that's funny because there's a lot of people who, I guess there's a sweet spot where the rooftop tent is the ideal choice to put on top of your vehicle. But I think there also comes a time where you don't want to climb up a ladder to get into bed.
Yeah,
might rather just sit on a cot and relax.
Yeah, I'm okay with a cot or a nice foam pad and a tent. I'm good with that. But those rooftop tents are super neat, though. I see them every once in a while out there, and they're super neat. I really think they're super neat. They're cool.
Well, and if your wife isn't going to go with you, get a rooftop tent because I know mine loves it. I mean, when comes out,
I don't have.
They take it out, and she just wants to show it off to her friends.
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
My wife's like, I don't want to climb a ladder in the middle of the night when I got to pee.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, my wife's like, I don't want to be down in the dirt with the dingoes when I got to pee, is what she reckons.
Well, Alex, you've got all kinds of critters trying to get after you all the day and night, so
dingoes.
Good choice.
Too right, yeah. I've definitely got a love-hate relationship with that tent. I just, like you said, Dan, like the car is that high. I had to buy a ladder extension for my tent because the ladder didn't reach the ground anymore, and it's so hard to pack that thing up.
I still want one.
Because I've got a full rack, I just climb up on the rack and do everything I need to right from the top, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's also nice to be able to. It's also nice to be able to. Once you initially open the tent up on your trip, you can leave your sleeping bag and your pillow and maybe a change of clothes or something in there and slap it shut. You don't have to worry about packing your bag every time you get away from camp or you pack up camp and hit the road too, which is also kind of nice. I've noticed is an additional feature to having these tents. So
yeah,
comfort level is definitely up there a few clicks. Compared to all the backpacking and backcountry camping that we did on the ground, and Slept well on good air mattresses and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go back anytime soon. It's kind of like having a super nice amenity and then going back. You know, I mean, we'll still go backpacking and stuff like that, but it's definitely going to get some use for sure. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, well, so steering it back towards the vehicle selection, that's one of the benefits of having a pickup truck is that you just have to open the tailgate. You don't have to unfold the tent or anything. But I don't know of many like wagons or SUVs that I at 6'1" can actually lay down in the back of. Even in my XJ, if I laid corner to corner with the back seat laid down and the front seats pushed forward, I'm still having to curl up. That's not ideal. Now, you know, for Mr. One ton sub,
Yep.
he could probably do it pretty easy. And it's something I'm looking at doing in the future in the Yukon, building a storage box that sits up at just the right level so you can lay all the seats down and it would just fold out into a flat surface.
Mm-hmm.
But that would still only be a good solution for sleeping 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, surprisingly,
if your adventure has more than 2.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if your adventure has more than 2 people in it, then you may be out of room. So, what are you saying, Taylor?
I was going to say, surprisingly, that was my favorite thing about the second-gen 4Runner that I just sold. The back seats would lay down, and there was more than enough room for anyone up to 6'3", 6'4" to fully spread out in there.
Really? I did not know there was that much room in the 4Runner.
That was my favorite thing about that truck is every time I went anywhere, I just slept in the truck, lay down the back seats, roll out my sleeping bag, and there's home for the night.
Yeah, that's what. Go ahead.
We had a guy come down to Baja with one of those, and I was so impressed with it. He was self-contained, man, and he was, you know, he's a big guy, and he was completely. He had the shelves under the pull-out drawer under the bottom that he built in there. He had all of his gear in there, and then he slept in that thing perfectly. There was a lot of room in that. Not to mention he went anywhere and with no problems.
Yeah, what was awesome about it is, like Dan, you mentioned you're going to have to build a platform to be able to sleep inside your Suburban, but the second-gen 4Runner, the seats would lay totally flat. There was nothing needed. Literally just fold them down and roll out your sleeping bag. No platform at all needed.
Yeah,
That's pretty slick.
it must have shrunk you because I had a couple third gens, and there was no way I was fitting in the back of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got a third gen in our group, and he doesn't sleep in his either. But I don't know why, but I could fit perfectly in mine, and I'm 6 foot, and I still had a couple inches of wiggle room.
Yeah, Jeremy's the same way. His 4Runner, before he got the tin on top, had a similar setup. He actually did build a platform to sleep on, but just so he could stuff stuff underneath him. And he's 6'3", so I was kind of shocked, when he said that he could actually fit in there, because I'm thinking, like, really, there's that much room? And he'd just open it up and lay down the seats and fold out his platform, and then he'd lay up on top and keep all of his gear underneath him. So it was real nice.
That is really cool. I hadn't realized that. So there it is. There's a good option if you're looking for a wagon that you can probably sleep in the back of. The 4Runner, huh? The fifth
second and third gen for sure.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'll have to add that to my list to check out a little more closely. But yeah, with the Yukon, it's got the 3-row seats, and when they fold, they all sit at the same level. You would just need something to span the gaps between the seats.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's perfect. It'll give me a spot to store some stuff in some drawers in the back anyways.
I've got a Honda Element that does that.
How's that doing?
Some minor not for it.
Yeah, it does well. I've taken it to Baja, but it gets eaten up in the washboard stuff.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because there was somebody else who I was hoping to get on here tonight. They do their overlanding in a VW Rabbit, or the Golf, and that is not your typical overland vehicle, because you can't fit hardly anything in there.
Wow. Yeah, and then the vans too, the Vanagons and Westphalias and the Synchros. You guys see that in social media too. I mean, that's a That's a huge group there, more so on the West Coast. But yeah, I mean, with Westfalia, I mean, you're totally outfitted, but then you have to have a synchros to get the four-wheel drive. So.
Yeah, but your tire is still 5 inches in diameter, so it doesn't really matter.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very
well,
true.
that's why like the E series vans are good for adventure mobiles and like the U joint off road. They build up those with the 4-wheel drive systems. I think like U joint, they put an Atlas transfer case in there, so they're pretty well built for off roading, and you can outfit the living space as however you want. But now the E series has been, I think, the end of the line for them. But I see a lot of other options for vans coming up online. The Ford Transit Connect is a smaller one.
And then the
but
Sprinter
I've seen a lot of the
four-wheel drive now too, isn't it?
Yep. I don't know how off-road capable they will be, but they'll at least get 4 wheels going at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe put a locker in it, and you really see a big difference.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the terrain you expect to go on. If you're going to be crawling some trails in Colorado or on the East Coast, it's probably not going to fit. I mean, it could fit like a square peg in a round hole. You're going to have to shave off the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask.
All good stuff.
I want to ask. I'll ask Brandon. You got a XJ, right? What do you like about your rig, and what do you not like about your rig?
I had an XJ.
What do you have now?
2-door JK.
Okay.
The 4-door. I had a 4-door XJ. It was a '98. It was great. I mean, it was super reliable. It was comfortable. It didn't have all the modern gadgets, like a lot of stuff today, but it was just really simple. It was automatic, but I mean, it was tough as nails. It had a long arm suspension on it, and winch bumper and wing out tire carrier and lots of armor and things like that. It was more of an off-road rig than an overlanding rig, though. And we loaded it down and took it to Moab 3 years ago, and it wasn't as good on the long travel. And we had like some smaller problems, like some clearance issues with exhaust. Because, I mean, any unibody is going to have that issue because you don't have frame rails to tuck things in. But other than that, I mean, it was a really good rig for pretty much anything you want to build it for, as I'm sure Dan will attest to.
As long as you don't want to sleep back there.
I did once, and it was a nightmare. We were on our way back from Moab, actually, and we were just tired and didn't feel like setting up camp or looking for a hotel. And we pulled into a truck stop and laid everything out, and we actually had a plastic table we had brought with us, and we stretched it out, and I was able to lay with my head at the right rear and my feet over by the steering wheel, and my wife was somehow like wedged under there. And I had to crack the window and turn like a little fan on because I was getting so claustrophobic. I felt like I was going to die. We made it work.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
For an emergency, you could do it, but I wouldn't recommend it.
So, Brandon, why did you decide to change rigs?
I just wanted something newer. I've just kind of always had the philosophy that if you're going to build something for a purpose, you should buy the newest thing you can afford, the nicest shape, and go from there rather than starting with something old and kind of already beat on and trying to repurpose it.
That's exactly what I just ran into with my second-gen 4Runner, and that's why I decided to sell it. Because I came to a crossroads where I was like, do I need to put more money into it, keep building it, and keep working on it? It seemed like I was in the garage working on it every day, because, it's 22 years old. And, do I keep putting money into it, or do I sell it, save my pennies for a little while, and buy something newer, more reliable, more comfortable, and just overall better?
Yeah, I feel like the earlier stuff, you start out buying what you can afford at the time, and then you just you don't mind tinkering with it. But, as you grow out of that, you kind of want something you can depend on every day. And a lot of times we end up using our rigs for more than one purpose. So, I mean, I know some people can afford to buy something new and nice and build it up and, you know, leave it in the garage until, you know, that 1 week in a month they get to go out. But most of us have to drive and live with our rigs every day, and they've got to do multiple different jobs, and our spouses have to drive them, you know, and it just, you don't want to be thinking about like, I hope she makes it, because I remember I had, you know, that one little leak that was starting to get a little bigger, you know.
Dude, you're describing exactly what my life was with the second thing. Every time my wife drove it, I was just like, fingers crossed, please don't break down.
Yeah, you never hear the end of it.
and you're exactly right. I started off with that one because it's what I could afford at the time. I paid $1,800 for the truck, and then I put another $2 or $3 grand in it to get it up and running. Took care of all the maintenance, tires, small lift, and got it to where I wanted it. And then realized, you know, even after all this work, I'm still not happy with this thing. It still needed a lot more work. So I was like, I'm just gonna cut my losses, sell it for what I have in it, and move on to something better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm facing with my XJ. You know, it is like Brandon mentioned, it's a great wheeler. It even does great for, you know, every daily driver duties, just getting me to and from work. But if I'm going to have to stuff the entire family in there, you know, my wife and 3 kids crammed in on that back seat, and the dog either goes or doesn't go, but either way, the 3 kids crammed back there. It's not a happy experience. So I've gone back and forth a lot on, and I imagine here in the next few years, I'll probably end up letting the XJ go, and it's going to break my heart. But it's something that probably just needs to be done. But I don't know what I'm going to go to. I may secretly be hoping that my wife wants something else, and I'll just take over the Yukon, maybe do a solid axle swap on the front end. But, I don't know.
That's a big deal, you know.
Yeah, you know, I've test driven the brand new all aluminum F-150, and I was really happy with it. It's got a lot of leg room in the back, so I know the kids would be happy back there. And it's overall wider than the XJ, so they could sit 3 in a row and be okay. They wouldn't be super happy like they are now. Everybody's got their own captain's chair and a rear bench seat. But they're just kids. They'll get over that.
DVD player.
Yeah, and the DVD player is built in.
Well, the good news is you could, with F-150, you could always tow the XJ around if you decided to hang on to it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to take it to the trailhead, you know, if you went down to Moab, you know, it would be nicer to tow your rig than it would be to drive there.
Yep, and that's actually what I've done before. The Suburban was the forerunner to the Yukon, and we'd put the Jeep on the flatbed trailer and haul it around.
I think Jason.
You still alive over there, Jason?
I think he ran off to kill some dogs.
The dog's coming after him, I guess.
Sounds like he's got a bit of chokehold.
But, you know, the XJ, like you said, it was great for just wheeling around and just taking care of little trail duties, but long haul, 35-inch mud tires was rough.
Yeah. They're definitely not made for that. We make them do it, but it's not ideal.
Yeah.
You think about how much it takes to get it to that point, too.
Yeah. I try not to think about that anymore because mine's already built. That's just a lot of cost bias.
Well, I'm not even talking about just financially. Just you know, that's one thing to consider when you're building a rig is you know, where you want to go with it eventually. And some vehicles, you know, adapt better than others to certain modifications. And if you were only looking to maybe put up to like a 32-inch tire in your XJ, it would take very little work. But when you start going past that, you know, you start having to reinforce bits of the chassis. You have to, you know, get larger steering components, and it just builds on itself almost exponentially.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's an exponential growth.
It really is.
Go up from like the 35-inch tire to a 37-inch tire, you're looking at putting a couple thousand in there. It's just 2 inches, but it's a lot of work to be able to run that reliably.
And probably a stronger transfer case, and then you need the suspension to hold those Dana 60s in place, which means the chassis has to be reinforced yet again. You
probably have to re-gear it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's the thing, you know. You really got to think about when we build race cars. The number one thing you have to consider is the tire, because you know we've all heard it, you know, plenty of times, but that's the main the one component that is touching the street. You know, everything else is to make those work better. Revalving shocks, different spring rates, different ride heights, and alignments, and things of that nature can help you do better on different racetracks. But ultimately, it boils down to getting the best you can out of your tires. And if you're going to wheel somewhere where you have to have 35-inch tires, you should start with something that can handle or already has 35-inch tires, rather than starting with you know, something, I don't know, it's like a lot smaller, and trying to, like a Suzuki Samurai. I mean, you can build those into really cool buggies, but that's all they're good for is climbing straight up rock faces. They can't do anything else. And if you start out with something, you think about those tire sizes and where you would like to take that vehicle, and you start with that and work backwards rather than the other way, you'll save yourself a lot of money, a lot of time, and you'll end up with a lot better rig in the end.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you have to also back up and say, are you rock crawling or are you overlanding?
Right.
And does an overlander really need a 35, a 33-inch tire even? You know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the biggest tires Jeeps ran typically 31. You know, and now it's like, oh, if you're not running a 35, that's the low end, and it's just insane where it's going.
Oh yeah, people will find a way to adapt bigger and bigger, and as other people, you know, show more ways of doing that for less money, people will go that route, which is a whole nother mess.
Yeah,
They're trying to shortcut. But you know, like you said, 35s are pretty much they're really more of a last ditch effort to get up those last couple of trails for an overlander. There's not very many places that you're going to actually overland with 35-inch tires as a necessity.
Yeah.
I mean, there's trails you might want to go to. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but I was talking to the guy at Moab 4x4 Outpost when I was out there a few years back, and he said you can do pretty much 90% of the trails in Moab with 35-inch tires. But you go out there and you see guys with, you know, like 40 some odd inch tires and these crazy buggies and stuff. And you know, they're definitely doing more of the rock crawling aspect. They're out at area BFE and, you know, just trying crazy lines and stuff like that. But they don't even have to take those lines. You know, I mean, if they had a lesser rig, they could still take the same routes, just different lines. And that's what it comes to is kind of, you know, your own experience driving, you know, how well you can, you know, traverse the different terrains without needing all this extra equipment. And you see certain guys with nearly stock rigs going places where you're like, I can't believe you just came through there.
Well, I've seen videos of a guy in Moab cruising all the trails out there in a Crown Vic, a factory Crown Vic. It's on YouTube. It sounds insane.
I don't know if that was all the trails, but
not all the trails.
That was lion. That was the baby lion's back. It's just one. It's one. It's not even a trail. It's just like a rock. You climb up, turn around, and come back down.
It was still impressive.
Oh yeah, it's still like, you know, but you know what? I was on Onion Creek, which isn't a difficult trail at all. It's got lots of small water crossings. It's got little bits of small boulders and stuff, but it's not a real. Rock crawlers wouldn't even bother going down that way. It's more of a scenic route. But a guy in a Honda Accord was, you know, he went down there, went to the very end, and him and his brother are out there sitting on the cooler, drinking beers, you know, having a picnic, just kind of hanging out, you know, and and I was surprised they made it. I figured they would have punctured their oil pan, you know. But
yeah, it's like one of those vehicles. Any vehicle can go off-roading once.
Yeah.
You should see what we see in Mexico. It's insane. Those guys will take a 78 Granada, you know, halfway to Mike's. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
They do.
But you know, and along the line, I always get disappointed. You know, we get new members in our group, and they are like, "Oh, I've got a Tacoma, but it needs to be fully armored before I go out." And it's like, no, get out, figure out what you need. Do you really need all this stuff? And they got it in their mind. Oh, I have to have this before I can go on a dirt road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it out, do the damage, and repair it later with better bits.
I mean, if you're going to be, your first trip down off-roading, your first trip's going to be trying to do 55 miles an hour down some trail you've never been on, then you better armor it. But if you're using good judgment, then, most of the stuff is just common sense, and if you got good people with you that know what they're doing and they respect their rides, you can follow their lines, they'll help you along.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just driver skill. I mean, we put a lot into building our rigs up, but it all falls back to driver skill, because you'll see people in the most built-up rigs, upside down on trails, and clearly they got that way from the way they were driving.
Yeah, some of the routes that we have and that we've traveled and we built, and then we're turning around and then sharing with people. We'll get people emailing us and asking us, I've got a stock F-150 or I've got a Jeep Liberty. There was a Jeep Liberty group that went out not too long ago, and like, oh, can we go out there? I've got this size tire, that type of stuff. I mean, all of the routes we design are specifically for taking a very capable stock vehicle. So I think that's what it kind of comes down to, is people don't know what the potential of that vehicle is first, and they need to experience that before they try to go out and do anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's one. Go ahead.
My first 4Runner I got, I didn't know anything, and I took it totally stock to array and did stuff, and people looked and said, "How'd you get that back here?" And I said, "Well, no one said I couldn't." It was not beyond the capabilities of the vehicle. It was all mental.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I was saying was that if somebody's going to spend money for their very first upgrade, I always recommend that they go get some driver training. Learn from somebody who can actually teach you how to drive correctly, how to do those Band-Aid repairs, because that's what's going to get you back. You're not going to have every tool and every part that you need for anything that can go wrong. What you need to know is how the system works and how that you can patch it back together and get home and then rebuild and improve that component that broke.
Yep. How to use a skim board for a high lift jack.
Yeah, like those guys in that Alaska off-road challenge thing that was on Discovery. There was the guys in the third-gen 4Runner, that black third-gen. Did you guys watch that show?
I watched some of it. I bailed after I couldn't get past the cheese.
I watched it all.
There was some guys in a brother and sister in a third-gen black 4Runner. It was pretty sharp. And
it was a second gen.
Second gen. Okay. So they got stuck one time, and he pulled out, like, he took all the gear out of the back of his truck and pulled out a sheet of plywood, and then put the sheet of plywood down so that he could get traction to go out. And I was thinking, man, he could have probably just cut it into strips and been completely fine. But yeah, I mean, improvise where you can, instead of spending $300, $400 on traction pads and stuff like that. But I actually like that show. You guys didn't like that show? I kind of like the drama of it a little bit.
I enjoyed it.
I don't have cable.
Yeah.
There's that too. I think it is the Alaska Off-Road Warriors or something?
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it is available online because I don't have cable either. I streamed the one episode, just plugged my computer into the TV and streamed it that way. But yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, I got it. They're trying to pay the bills for the TV show and everything too, because there were some breakdowns where if you didn't have the parts, you're not recovering. But I think by the next episode, it was miraculously the part would just show up, most likely because the route just runs pretty close to established highways.
Well, just like that, in one of the last episodes, I can't remember his name now, but he had his Land Rover broke down, and then all of a sudden he had a new one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like Top Gear when I used to follow him with the Volkswagen Beetle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just stock vehicle. If you need a bumper, a winch bumper for it, or a plate bumper or something like that, see what you can do with what you got. I mean, it got to that point for us where, through the first season we were like going places. Well, it might be better to have a better approach or something like that to some of these trails and stuff, even though they're not super technical. But so that's what took us to that level. But yeah, I mean, we went for a whole year traveling, 600 miles of overland routes that we mapped, and we were doing it in a stock Well, I had a little bit of lift on my pickup by then, but the 4Runner was completely stocked and sagged out with 160,000 miles on it. So,
basically break even.
So yeah, and then Jeremy goes and puts a lift on it, and then it's back to stock height. So, and that's something too. That's something interesting to talk about. I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but so you don't see a lot of lifted vehicles in Australia. I mean, they're lifted to the sense to be able to carry heavier payloads, but you're not seeing anything over 2 inches or anything like that over there.
So Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know there's some legal issues that actually keep them limited to something.
Yeah, the legal lift, 2 inches. That's generally across the country. 2 inches into your suspension and 2-inch bigger tyres. So in my Patrol, that's all right. I'm on 33s, and they come out with a 31-inch tyre on them. So I'm good with my tyres, but let's hope no cops are listening. The Patrol's actually a 3-inch lift.
Just air down.
But yeah, just air down a bit. Anything above 2 inches, you've got to have an engineer do a report on and get a compliance plate and everything done for it. So, I mean, if you're going to go above 2 inches, you're probably going to go for more like 5 or 6 and have a weekend toy or something. It costs as much as the lift to actually get an engineer to look at the thing.
Honestly, a little more regulation like that here in the States wouldn't be a bad idea, because I've seen some stuff that is
There's
scary.
some scary stuff on the road.
I've been down in Baja. There's a lot of that.
There was that F-150 driving around here in Alabama, and he had, I think there were 54-inch tires on it, and had stock axles.
Where were the fenders at?
And it had blocks. It had lift blocks built up in the back axle.
Oh my gosh!
They were like
deadly.
all stacked up. I was like, "This is crazy."
You had multiple lift blocks?
Oh yeah, they were stacked up nice.
Even better.
Maybe that kid never played with Legos.
You go around a turn and then.
That was not going to end well.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
So Taylor.
Yep.
Taylor, I want to know what you're going to do now that you've got rid of the 4Runner. What's going through your mind for your new vehicle selection?
Man, I've been waiting on one of you guys to ask. Well, took a few trips in the second gen and had a lot of fun in it. Learned a lot of things, explored a lot of country, but it like I said earlier, it still needed a lot of work. It wasn't, up to my standards of reliability or comfort, and I just decided to go ahead and cut my losses on it and moved into something that's going to be more comfortable for daily driving, because whatever rig I purchase is going to have to do double duty, and be comfortable for my family to come along with me too. I've got a fiance and 2 kids, and I want to take them with me, and where we normally go is 2 or 3 hours away. So we want to be comfortable on the way over there, on the trail, and on the way back. So,
not a Bronco.
No, not a Bronco.
I'm thinking Suburban.
Well, I thought about, what did I like and what did I not like about the 4Runner. I came up with a list of things. It didn't have air conditioner, so I'm comfortable on long trips. It had a severe lack of power. That 3-point slow was horrible. If you're going to ever buy a second gen, make sure it has the 22 RE, please. It was the interior space, even though you could lay down the back seats and sleep in there comfortably, it was small for your passengers. Anybody over 6 foot in the passenger seat, their knees would be touching the dash. Anybody in the back seat, their knees would be, into the back of the front seats. It was just old and getting worn out. It's difficult to find parts for it every once in a while. So then I thought about, what do I want in a future rig, and listed out a bunch of things. I want, since it's going to have double duty, I want good fuel mileage. I want it to be comfortable. I want it to have, like Brandon said earlier, I want to buy the newest rig possible, for what I can afford. And so I ultimately decided on a GX 470, which I'm saving my pennies for right now, and hoping to buy one here in a couple months.
Nice.
Yeah, you should be able to find one of those that's in pretty good shape. They don't typically get abused off-road very often.
Yeah, there was a nice build of one on Expo not too long ago on their
that one is amazing. I read that one.
Which one?
If you haven't seen already, Taylor.
What's that?
As if you haven't seen it already, you might want to look that one up. It's pretty well outfitted.
Do you remember the name of it? I'm sure I've probably seen it.
No, but if you just go to Expedition Portal's main page, not the forum, but the main page.
The adventure-driven one?
Just under search, if you just search GX470, it's probably the only one.
Yeah, okay. We'll make sure to have a link to that in the show notes here because that one is definitely worth a read.
Yeah, I think the one you're talking about is owned by Adventure Driven, and they do private trips around the Grand Canyon. But I decided on a GX470 because it's going to be super comfortable. They're not very old. You can find one that's 8 years old with 100,000 miles for $12,000 to $14,000. And what really attracted me to them, because at first I considered a 4th gen 4Runner or a Tacoma like Jason has, and I decided, or I was considering those two, and then a friend of mine educated me on the GX470 because I knew nothing about them. A friend of mine educated me on them, and I learned from him that they share the Prado 120 platform, which is also the 4th gen 4Runner and the FJ Cruiser platform. And since they share that platform, all of the suspension parts will bolt right on. So that was a big bonus for me. And there's decent aftermarket support for them. They share the same drivetrain as the 100 series Land Cruiser, which I also considered, but they're more narrow and they get a lot better gas mileage than the 100 series, and they're easier to find and cheaper. So all of those things together led me to the GX470. And another thing I really liked about it was the third row seating. So when my boys get a little bit older, they'll be able to both bring a friend along, and we'll all be able to ride comfortably.
That's a good choice. Now, the one thing I guess we haven't talked about is because, this is an overlanding discussion, and we all have a home base that we maintain. But there is a segment of the overlanding crowd where they are permanently on the road, and there is no home base. And for something like that, I would definitely look at using a larger, something like one of the global expedition vehicles. That's a larger, platform, and then it's got the full living suite in the back section. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to a friend of mine, Mark at Global Expedition Vehicles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I'm looking at going down there to see some of their stuff here soon.
Yeah, I think he's right in between the two of us.
Oh, we may have to work a meeting.
Yeah, before you head off to Alaska anyway.
I am looking at going down there here at the end of May.
Yeah, we're trying to get Mark to join one of his customers up in Vermont, actually. I think she has a Unimog, and we're trying to get her to come down and be part of one of the episodes. So Mark's a super guy, and the thing about everybody balks at the price point of a global expedition vehicle, but if you're really gonna travel the world, or you're gonna spend full time traveling and working out of your vehicle, if you're even working or you just sold everything, I mean, in most cases you're gonna sell your house to do that. So and you're gonna sell off a lot of your assets and things like that to go. So you can totally justify doing it if you make that decision and that life change to go out and do it. Then a $250,000 sounds much more affordable. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what a lot of people look at it. I mean, if you've got one and you've got a Quonset or a shed and it's just sitting in there, then you've just got too much money probably. But if you're gonna get rid of your home place and stuff like that, then you can totally justify spending that.
And when you're traveling like that, comfort is probably going to be your number one priority. You're going to want to, since that's going to be your house, you're going to want to be comfortable in it, and you're going to want to have a lot of space, which those kind of vehicles offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just down at Expo, our neighbors down a couple of vehicles. We're a French couple. They are taking a year traveling the world. Started in Paris, went up through the stands through Russia, down to China, shipped their vehicle to Argentina, and made it up to Expo. And they're doing it all in a Defender 110.
Mm-hmm.
And they said their expectation was that they would be living outside the vehicle 80%, 90% of the time. And they said the reality is it's only about 50% of the time. So, like at Expo, they had a full pop-up camper on the top and things, and it was a nice setup. And 50% of the time they're in their vehicle because of weather or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They liked their size. They thought it was good, and it did everything they needed it to do. But that's something just to keep in mind that rooftop tent traveling around the world probably isn't the right solution.
Yeah, and I agree with you there 100%. I mean, I think we'd all like to think that we could outfit a vehicle and travel the world with it, out of a dream or a passion that we have to get there to do that. But I think doing that comfortably with a family, and dogs, if you've got dogs and stuff like that too. I mean, equipping it for multi-day travel in the States is more practical, or even going to Central America or something like that may seem legit, but talking about putting it on a ship and in a container and going somewhere, I mean, yeah.
It's a different world. You move into the big leagues at that point.
Yeah.
Dan, I ran into a guy in Mexico, south of Mulahey, a couple years ago. I just sent a picture on your Facebook.
Okay.
I don't know if you can share that somehow, but I just put it on your Facebook. I don't know, you were talking about the global vehicle. This guy is the global vehicle. It's insane. It's just huge. So I don't know if you can share that with these guys somehow.
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll play with it here a little bit.
Okay.
But that's exactly what we're talking about, where it's got a hard side box on the back.
Yeah, it's
man,
huge.
that one that you've got, it looks like those are actually could double as rub rails if you're getting them up against a tree or something. That looks pretty stout.
Yeah.
Yeah, those global expedition vehicles and the things like them are outstanding. So I'm looking forward to paying Mark a visit and checking out those down there, just so I can drool on everything. Hopefully he doesn't mind.
Definitely.
He's definitely a super enthusiastic guy, as Taylor can agree. I've talked to him on the phone, and he's super awesome. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to hearing what comes out of that.
Yeah.
Does anybody follow Desk to Glory on Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those guys,
Yes.
I cannot believe their vehicle choice, honestly. The extended cab, 89 to 95, I'm not sure which year it is. It's in there somewhere. Toyota pickup.
Yeah.
They're traveling
pull him
all
up.
over South America
He's-
in that tiny pickup.
But I think some of it
Yeah.
is what you get used to.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you got, you adapt to it, and that works.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I think it's awesome personally. I mean, huge props to them for not needing a huge, fully kitted rig to go do something like that.
Yeah, well, I will say Cruising Nomads was next to us as well at Expo, and just being able to get inside, I mean, as we're all huddled around a propane fire, we could see them in there enjoying a nice cup of coffee and staying warm.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up this second session of the roundtable, I think there's a couple morals to take. Moral of the story here is, you have to just get out with whatever it is that you have, and that'll help influence your decisions going forward. And if you go at it with some kind of a little appetite suppressant, don't think you need too much right away. Just use what you have, and you'll figure out the rest as you go. So that's one important thing that we've talked about. The other is think about the kind of terrain in the area that you're going to be traveling to. If you're going to plan on driving around the world, you need to think about the other laws in the other countries, the availability of parts, and especially tires, because turns out the Earth is large, and you're drive a lot of miles doing something like that. So I think those are the two biggest takeaways that I've seen.
And who you're going to be traveling with, if you're going to have your family along, or if it's just going to be you and a buddy.
Yep, that's good.
I noticed that a lot of these overlanders spend, I mean, some of them insane amounts of money on their kit. I would, don't worry, just get out there and start doing it. You know, that's the most important thing is you're outside doing stuff. Don't worry about that other guy's kit. You know, your kit will be just right for you once you figure, a few runs and you just start learning. You just start learning by doing.
Exactly.
And it doesn't stop either, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't stop. Mine's been going for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Never stop learning.
Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up, and we'll give everybody a chance to say where they can be found on the internet. So, Matt, we'll start with you, then jump to Ben, and we'll go through the regular crew minus Brandon. I'll have to speak for him because apparently the internet ate Brandon. So, Matt, where can we go to find more about you?
Camp4low.com.
And that's the number 4 and LO.
Just like 4low. And
Perfect.
we're on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters and I think that's it. So, but we're on the Facebook more and the Instagram. I'm trying to really ramp up the Instagram more now. So.
Excellent. Yeah, I love watching all the pictures of all your different adventures. I know I'm just torturing myself by looking at it, but I do anyways. All right, Ben, where can we go to find more about everything you're doing?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, what's Matt's username on Instagram again?
Camp4low.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, now Ben, you're up.
So RockyMountainOverland.com, pretty good group there, good forum, and we are getting out probably about twice a month. Have an actual event going on of some sort. So very active. Anyone in Colorado, stop by, say hi.
Perfect. Hopefully we'll be able to link up as I pass through Colorado, maybe.
Yeah.
Won't be there for long, but we'll have to try.
Yep.
All right, Alex, I'll let you tee it up. Where can we go to find out more about Intents Offroad?
Well, you'll find me at intentsoffroad.com. I'm also on Facebook and the Instagram, the same thing, Intents Offroad, and YouTube as well. If you just search Intents Offroad, you'll find me on there.
And that's the punny spelling where you're intense.
Yeah, like you're intense. That's right.
I love it.
So if you spell it right, you've got it wrong.
All right, Brandon, since we got you back, we'll let you give all your contact information
I think
before
the internet's
we
getting tired.
We're starting to push our luck.
Are we breaking the internet?
We might be.
It's storming here. I don't know about where you guys are.
I don't know. I'm stuck in a basement with concrete walls. I'm good to go.
All right, tornado shelter. All right, well, my name's Brandon Libby, and pretty much if you search for me in any of the major social media sites, under that name you'll find me, as well as Expedition Portal under the same name. I don't have any fancy code names or anything.
We'll get you one. We'll get you what you need call sign. We'll talk about that on a future show too.
All right.
All right, Jason, you're up.
Jason with Mountain State Overland. You can find us at mountainstateoverland.com. And then we're on Instagram for MS Overland, and then we have a UFace account. Well, Facebook, I guess. That's just what we call it.
UFace account?
We've got a Facebook account and YouTube channel, Google Plus, all that stuff too. So mountainstateoverland.com is our landing page for pretty much all of that. So, yeah.
Perfect. All right, Taylor, you're up.
The Overland Adventures, we can be found on Instagram, all one word, The Overland Adventures. That's where we're most active. And also, we just got on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch our videos. And we're soon to have a website, but we'll let you know when that's up.
Right on. And I am Dan Cole, your moderator for the Overland Roundtable and host of the 4x4 podcast. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you are listening, just head over to the overlandroundtable.com. Find links to everything that we've discussed here. You can share it with all your friends. And thanks for joining us, guys. And we'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.
Decrest out.
All right, we're good to go. Starting to push our luck here. The internet's going wonky.
Yeah, it is on all of us, obviously.
I think it's getting a little tired.
It still says live on my screen.
Yeah, same.